What is going on, nerds of wrestling, and welcome to today's episode of What's Up Wrestler, a podcast by nerds of wrestling. I am your host, Justin Del Rio, and my guest at this very time comes all the way from the United Kingdom. He is the natural Niall Fairchild. Niall, what is going on? How are you today?
Yeah, I'm absolutely excellent. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It's a bit late here, but I'm really happy to be on here with you.
Dude, hell yeah. Thank you so much for staying up. I give you so much credit because 11 o'clock is my bedtime. So to stay up past 11 is hats off to you, my friend. How are you doing, dude? How are things up in the UK?
Yeah, I'm doing well myself. CPW had a show tonight, pay-per-view. I got to have a little match before I come on here. So life's good, at the moment.
Yeah, I love that, dude. Tell us about your match. How did it go? Who did you wrestle?
Yeah, I wrestled a guy named James Cross, and he come through like CPW's training academy like myself a couple of years ago. He did something, they call it CPW Superstars. So it's a bit like, I don't know if you have it over in the States, it's called like white collar boxing, where,
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like white collar wrestling. You pay, you sign up, and you get 12 weeks training, and then you get a match. And from that, you have your one match, and you've ticked a life goal, or you carry on. And luckily for us, James Cross carried on. He's carried a heavyweight title in CPW, and he was coming for mine tonight. And luckily, I just about got the better of him.
Hell yeah, dude. Tell us a little bit about CPW.
Yeah, obviously CPW stands for Coventry Pro Wrestling. That's in the West Midlands, just shy of Birmingham. I'm not sure if any of your fans will know locations, but I know there's a Birmingham over in the America as well.
Yeah, Alabama, I think.
Yeah. I started wrestling there about 5 years ago. I went through, at the time, it was just their training school. I had a little bit of time out here and there because I've become a father. I've been back about 2.5 years now, and it's just been full steam ahead since. I've been really lucky with the opportunities I've had, and I think that I've took them with all that I can, and we're making the most of it.
Hell yeah, dude. How have you been during this crazy pandemic? I don't know how things are in England, but how are things up there with like COVID?
Yeah, it has hit us really hard. I'm not sure how you guys have been doing it. We've had things called lockdowns where literally you're just not allowed to leave pretty much your house unless you're going to work, if you're classed as a key worker, or if you're going for food shopping or medicine.
Right.
That was it. I think we've been in 3 lockdowns now. We're technically sort of still in one.
Fuck.
We're slowly getting there. I got vaccinated the other day, so we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. We had a little bit of a scare today.
Oh.
Our Prime Minister, what you would call your president, had a little brief, and we thought from Monday we're allowed to go into like cinemas and pubs, and CPW's got a show next Saturday, which will be the first one back for, I think it's about 8 months.
Wow.
So we're worried about this Indian variant. We thought the rumor was that he was going to sort of put a stop to it, and it's just everyone at CPW was gutted. We thought we were fearing the worst, but luckily he's just it was just a brief, and he's happy with how things are going, how we're getting vaccinated. So we're all systems go at the moment. So everyone tonight was just up, and we're looking forward to it.
I love that. I hope nothing but the best of luck to everyone out there. Yeah, we are not in lockdown right now. I'm in Connecticut, in the States, but everything in Connecticut seems to be going okay. I've been at work for the past year now, so I was laid off last year for a couple months, but I went back to work and everything seems to be fine. Tell us a little more about Niall. Niall, growing up watching wrestling, were you a fan? Who did you idolize the most?
Yeah, I was definitely a fan. I'd say I had 2 periods. So I've just turned 30. So when I was 7, 8, 9, obviously that was in the height of the Attitude Era.
Right.
So, you've got Austin, Rock, Undertaker, Kane. Obviously, being 8, 9 years old, Stone Cold was just like the god to me, you know, like he was swearing, and obviously you're not meant to do that when you're a kid. He was, you know, stunning his boss. He was doing everything that he shouldn't do.
Right.
You know, at the time, that was just like the coolest thing ever. Obviously, there's a lot of violent matches, which, you know, I kept quiet from my parents, you know, just watched it, and just, at the time we were on VHS, so I'd record the pay-per-views, and I'd just be like careful when I watched them and who was looking around, you know.
Right.
But you know, that was such a great time in wrestling for me. And as I got a bit older, it just, you go to school and it's not the cool thing to do, if you know what I mean. You know, wrestling wasn't deemed cool, even though secretly I still liked it. I wouldn't talk about it. Then eventually, around 2002, 2003, I just couldn't hold it back anymore, and I just got straight back into it. And at that time, we had, you know, that OVW class come through with John Cena, Brock Lesnar,
of course. Yep.
And I was 12, 13. So John Cena then was the god to me. And, you know, a lot of people probably wouldn't say that, but, you know, John Cena to me is an absolute legend. And what he's done in the WWE is just phenomenal.
I absolutely agree. I love how you said that when you were younger, watching wrestling wasn't deemed the cool thing. Is that how it is in England? Because, I mean, it kind of was like that up in here, up in the States, but, like, people watched it, but, like, again, then people didn't mention it. You know, people didn't want to admit they were wrestling fans.
Yeah, it pretty much, like I say, when the Attitude Era was around, it was like wrestling was the thing, you know.
Right.
Like MTV had a lot of coverage on it. I know Austin was doing a lot of stuff for, you know, MTV. He was getting into movies, and so was The Rock. So it was a cool thing. And then it sort of, as you got a little bit older, it sort of fizzled out for just a little bit. As you know, when they lost Rock and Austin, you know, that was a big loss for them. And then, like I say, eventually, you know, you do follow a crowd when you're young, you're influenced, but then, like I say, my love of wrestling just come through. And once you start speaking about it, other people will be like, oh yeah, I know John Cena.
Right.
And it's like everyone is talking about it when really everyone's been watching it, they just didn't say.
Exactly. It sucks, you know. I wish I could go back in time and be like, I didn't care. Who cares what people think? You know, like, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. Like, at the end of the day, you love what you love, and that's it. You said Stone Cold Steve Austin was your favorite wrestler. What are some of your favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin matches or moments?
Obviously, his trilogy with the Rocket, the Manias, they were different level.
Yeah.
Some not for the wrestling matching, but for the entertainment. You know, whenever Vince was involved, you know, like Vince wasn't the most athletic dude. He wasn't a trained wrestler, but he literally just gave his body to Austin and said, "Just do whatever you want."
Right.
And you know, to me, Vince, his selling, his facial expressions, just incredible. You know, whenever Vince was involved with Austin, you knew it was
going to be gold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much wrestling, especially nowadays. Are you keeping up with any current products, or just none really at all?
It's sort of, yeah, it's tough. Obviously, I keep up with WWE, but I don't necessarily watch it week for week because there's that much content now. It's hard to keep up. But I've always got an ear for what storylines are going on. Some of my friends will say, "Oh, you need to watch this match," so I'll watch it. I've got a 5-year-old boy, and he is very interested in wrestling at the moment. So, like, he wants to watch WrestleMania, so we watch that. And like, that's the first pay-per-view I've watched fully for a long time, and I was really impressed by it. I thought, well, actually, it's you know, this is good. I don't know why I'm not watching this. I should make more time to do it. I've been watching quite a bit of SmackDown. I'm enjoying what Roman Reigns is doing lately.
Oh, he's gold.
Yeah, it's just the change. I went to WrestleMania 32 in the AT&T at Dallas.
You did? How was that?
It was really good, but at the time, Reigns was like the most hated guy ever because he was just like this. Almost like Austin wannabe. They were trying to mold him the same way they did with Austin and Triple H, and everyone knew that he was going to beat Triple H, and no one wanted it. And you know, I didn't want it at the time, but now watching what he's doing now, he's a bit like he does remind me of John Cena. He rode that storm of
Right.
uncertainty, where the crowd was trying to take over, and now he's literally got the crowd in the palm of his hands.
Absolutely. It's crazy. It's crazy how you said that. Roman Reigns was wrestling. Obviously, he was in the main event at 32, and nobody wanted him to win. It was like that at 31, if you remember, where he won the Rumble.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted him to win. Everyone knew it was going to happen. And going into the match against Lesnar at 31, I myself, I don't know how you were feeling about the match. I was not excited for it at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't invested. I didn't care for it. I did not want to see Roman Reigns in the main event. But watching that match, I kid you not, bro. I feel like that's one of my favorite matches of all time because Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar was low key a banger at 31. That's like, and that whole WrestleMania is a very, very underrated WrestleMania. So for the nerds who are listening or who are watching, if you never saw WrestleMania 31, what are you doing? Go watch it. But yeah, going to WrestleMania 32, you talk a little bit about that. Like, I gotta know, like, were there 100,000 people there?
If there wasn't, it was very close. It's hard to. Obviously, you guys, you've got your American football and college football. I'm sure you get 100,000 fans pretty regularly. So
yeah,
maybe to you guys, you see it more. But obviously, when I walked into the AT&T, I've never been before, and you walked in above where the ring was. You had to walk down to you're a good 20 foot up from the actual where the ring was. So just seeing when you walk in, you just appreciate the absolute size of the stadium.
Right.
And like say, I just couldn't get over the amount of people that were there. You look in one section and you think, wow, there's loads of people here. And then you'd think, well, that's about 1/30th of the actual stadium. And then you look around and obviously, I think there's a lot of problems getting in. I think their Wi-Fi went down. A lot of people, they had to do manual tickets.
Yeah.
So we were quite lucky. We got there. I had a travel package, so they delivered us, on the bus, nice and early. So we got in. A lot of people struggled. So at first, it was quite empty for the pre-show, the 2-hour pre-show. But then when it got to the actual WrestleMania show, it was just incredible. And like that Jumbotron they've got, it's just, you can't appreciate the size of that stadium unless you've been there.
I feel like going to that WrestleMania for a lot of people who were there, especially sitting way up, they were good because, like you said, they had that massive Jumbotron. Like, I'll be good, bro. Like, if I'm like way up in the nosebleeds and I can see right there, I'll just be chilling, just watching. Yeah. But I feel like, oh man, it must have been WrestleMania 32 was not one of the best WrestleManias at all. If you could remember, man, what was one moment from that night that you just absolutely loved?
Well, going back to an earlier question, obviously you talked about who was your idols growing up, and I don't know why, because he's from around that area. When Austin come out, I just wasn't expecting it, and I remember I popped so hard, I sort of like jumped up like this. I think I tore like something in my abdomen.
Oh no!
Yeah, and to get that out of me, I probably don't show my expressions and my emotions as much as I should in life, but something took over me, like unbelievable. So just to see Austin, I was lucky. I seen him when I was 8 or 9. He come over for a UK tour. I got to see him, but I couldn't really remember it because obviously I was too young to remember. But yeah, getting to see Austin was just incredible. And obviously you had Shane McMahon going off the top of the South.
Yeah, that was nuts, dude. Oh my god, that was crazy. That was intense, dude. Yeah. Like that whole WrestleMania, like I said, was very cool. I feel like John Cena got like the biggest boos or cheers of that night.
Yeah.
Were you happy to see Cena? I mean, I love Cena.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To be honest, most of my friends have always been like the Cena sucks guys, and I've been the let's go Cena.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to see Cena. Like I said, what he's done for WWE is incredible. And, the fact that there's so many people that didn't want him in the position he was, but he used it to his advantage. I'd say he's probably the first person to actually break that mold.
Yeah.
You know, because no one wanted it. He just kept going. WWE kept doing it anyway. And then he actually used the hate against him. He just kept doing what he was doing and making them hate him even more. And obviously his demographic was mainly kids and women.
Yeah.
So they'd be cheering for him. Then he'd have all like the 18 to 32-year-olds booing.
Right.
No getting reactions like that. It's groundbreaking.
I was the person cheering for him, man. I'm with you, bro. I was a big Cena fan. I still am a Cena fan.
Yeah.
We could talk about Cena all the time. We could talk about WrestleMania 32 for hours. I want to know more about you, man. What made you finally decide to step foot in the square circle and really get the training going? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking for wrestling training since I was about 20. You know, I used to, with my friends when I was 12, 13, I'd be on the trampoline. We had our own little backyard federation called KKW. And, you know, we'd just kill each other on that trampoline, doing all the moves that we could. And, you know, we kept saying, one day we'll go to proper training and we'll become wrestlers. And like one of the guys went to uni, I went straight into work. So it just sort of, that dream sort of died and reality hit, really. You know, we've got to work, pay bills, whatever. And I got to 20 and I thought, I've got to do this. So I started looking around Coventry. There wasn't really anything going on. So I just kept looking, nothing. So it sort of died again. And I got to 24. I'd just had my first child, a son. And I was thinking, time's ticking now. I know I'm only 24 and obviously wrestlers can go for quite a while now. But I thought if I don't do this soon, you know, time will pass me by and it will happen again. You know, I'll get too wrapped up in work and my family. So I put the search out again and a place called Coventry Pro Wrestling turned up. So it was on Twitter. I wasn't on Facebook at the time. So I just messaged them and said, you know, do you guys provide training? Are you running? But obviously I'd never heard of them before. And straight away they're like, yes, come in. You know, come down, see if you like it. And like I say, growing up in the Attitude Era, you had Tough Enough. And, you know, like documentaries like Beyond the Mat. So when what I was expecting wasn't what I got. I was expecting basically 3 months of me doing squats, cleaning up the ring, not being allowed in the ring.
Right.
Getting beat up basically for 3 months, and then they'd let me come in and put someone in a headlock. But straight from, you know, the first day, Mr. Richards, the owner, came up, shook my hand, told me, you know, the wrestler's etiquette. You go introduce yourself, you shake everyone's hand, and then that was it. From then on, I was hooked. You know, they treated me completely fairly. There was none of this, what they called it breaking people in. There was no breaking in. It was just, you come, you train hard, and you'll get your rewards. You'll get your ring time. We're not going to put you in stretches just to make you scream. We're not going to make you squat until you sit. You know, you're going to train as everyone else, and you'll progress, you know, if you want it. And, you know, from that, the first day, I remember I got home and I tried to go to sleep. I had work the next day and I didn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep because it's like my mind was blown.
Right.
You know, I was thinking, I'm living my dream here. You know, like it's happening. And like the first thing I did, got in my car. I was car sharing to work. I was like, my friend was a really big wrestling fan, Darren. I said, I went wrestling training last night. And he was like, whoa, you know, like, can't believe it. And like, you sort of like, oh, I'm wrestling, you know, I'm going to be a wrestler now. And then all of a sudden, you know, like you go to a training session, it's like, no, you're not a wrestler yet.
Not yet.
Watch all these guys and you think, I'm nowhere near these, you know, there's a lot of hard work to come in.
Yeah. And how long did your training last? What was the longest time you trained for?
Well, technically, still training now. I'd never say that I'm not training.
True.
Yeah.
My apologies.
No. But that, you know, we have weekly training sessions, and I'll turn up as much as I can still. So yeah, I mean, you know, 5 coming on 6 years. The first year or two, I'd literally 2 times a week without fail, I'd be there. Any seminars before shows, I'd be there. You know, just trying to get. So that's probably the time when I learned the most of becoming, say, a wrestler or a performer. But the last 3 years since, I've learned through, obviously I'm still training, but actually having matches with a lot more experienced guys, you know, just sitting in with them, listening to what they're telling me, listening to how the crowd reacts, watching their matches back, seeing what they're doing. You know, there's more to wrestling than just the actual getting in the ring and taking the back bumps and
Right.
running the ropes. It's like, I always say it to my friends, it's it must be one of the hardest jobs in the world, because obviously you'll plan a few things beforehand, but then you'll go out there and the crowd maybe don't like what they're seeing, or they want to see more, say,
Right.
of me or the opponent doing something. So you have to swap that. You've got the ref telling you certain things like your times and where to sell to. The camera's here, you know, the camera's there. It's moving around. You've got to move to it. And it's like there's so many things that you've got to try and remember. You've got to remember to sell.
Yeah.
First train, it's hard to remember. So yeah, there's so many things that go into wrestling. It's not just, like I say, getting into that ring. They call it an art, and it is, to me. You know, it is the ultimate art.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The question I meant to ask before was, my apologies, was how long did it take you to get booked in your first match?
I think it was about 10 weeks, believe it or not. And that's where I sort of got the name The Natural from, because after the first couple of sessions, Will Starr, the trainer at CPW, said, you know, that phrase a lot of people have heard, you know, you're a natural. And at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, well, that's cool. You know, like, let's keep training. That's motivated me. I'll keep going. And then, unfortunately, a guy that was in an angle got injured, and then just needed someone to step in, basically to build another feud. So the plan was that I wasn't going to get really any offense in. I was just going to take a couple of basic bumps, a bit of a beating, just to further 2 other guys in their feud.
Right.
And for some reason, I don't know why, at Country Pro Wrestling, the fans are called CPW Galaxy. But for some reason, from the moment I walked out, they just took to me. And like I say, I have no idea why. Because, you know, your first match, I was so nervous. I was just listening to what I was being told. I was that nervous, I didn't know what to do. Even my music, I didn't even know if I had music. The music had like that they gave me, they didn't tell me what it was. So I stood there backstage and I could hear something. And I was thinking, is that my music? And then I was like to the ref, have I got music? And he was like, well, I don't know. Just go out there. So I went out, stood in front of the crowd, and then the music dropped. It like went in, it's like a little intro. I was like, that's what I should have waited then. But oh wow. Walked down to the ring, just, you know, like I could remember feeling myself like shaking, you know, like goosebumps. I felt cold, hot. Like I say, that first step through the curtain, it's unbelievable, you know, your nerves leading up to it. I can remember I was about 3rd or 4th on the card. So I'd be like, oh, there's first match. It's getting close. There's second match. It's really close. 3rd, right, I'm on next. Just standing behind that curtain and hearing the bell for the 3rd match go and thinking, this is it. I can't back out now. I'm here. I've got to do it. And yeah, you're so nervous for it, but you walk out and that, you know, the crowd, like I say, for some reason they cheered for me. They had no reason to, but they did. And it just, you know, the release you get from that. And then the match went as good as, you know, what we planned, and everyone was happy. Like I said, the crowd got involved, which I wasn't expecting. So once again, it was another sleepless night because my brain was just blown from what had just happened.
You must have.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna say you must have felt like a kid, like in a candy store, walking down that aisle in your first match.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I just basically felt like you know, it's a cliche, but living the dream. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many people it was in front of or if anyone cared. But to me, like you say, I was that 8-year-old watching Stone Cold. I was Stone Cold that night. You know, walking out and I'd achieved something which I said I was going to do, and I just, like I say, for a while I never thought it was going to happen. So you know, it's just phenomenal.
Hell yeah. Fast forward a little after your first night, your first match. What are some of your favorite matches that you've had that you could share with the nerds?
Yeah. So going forward, the at the time the CPW heavyweight champion Jake Casanova, he sort of, I don't know why again, he sort of befriended me. I don't know if he's seen something in me that he liked, but once we talked a bit, we realised we were both, you know, wrestling fans, and we sort of had the same sense of humour. And he introduced me to a guy called Tom Lindsay, who was his best friend. And me and him have had a couple of matches down the line, and it was weird. I think it was about my third or fourth match. Again, it was just chance. So anyone that's listening, that's a wrestler or wannabe wrestler, this is my number one tip. Always bring your gear to a show because you never know what's going to happen.
That's the number one rule, bro.
Yeah. And Tom Lindsay was meant to face a guy called Damien Dunn, who at the time was quite a big guy in the UK scene. And something happened and he couldn't turn up. So I was just doing the seminar, you know, trying to get noticed, doing my thing. And Mr. Richards looked up in the ring and he went, "No, have you got your gear?" And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Good, you're on the show." And I was like, "Cool." I was thinking, you know, I'll be the pre-show or I'll be, you know, like the opening match. He's like, "Oh, you're in the main event against Tom Lindsay." I was like, "Whoa."
What?
You know, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, and it's also an Ironman match that's going half an hour, I think it was. And I was like, I am not ready for this at all, but I don't care. I'm just going to go in there and hope for the best.
Yeah, man.
And, you know, Tom Lindsay at that time, he was going for that title. He was the number one bad guy in CPW. He was the main bad guy for a long time. He really helped build that company. And once again, for some reason, he seen something in me and he really helped me through that match and helped build me into, you know, what I'm becoming today. And somehow I won the match, unbelievably.
What? That's
So
awesome.
it was like just unbelievable. And then fast forward a couple of years, at CPW has the biggest show of the year called History. So it was meant to be me and a guy called Kevin Isaac versus Tom Lindsay in a freeway. Unfortunately, Kevin he got a bad neck injury, so he was the champion. So we had to make short work of him and not bump him and just get him out of the match quickly. So it come down to me and Tom Lindsay again. You know, it's sort of about a year and a half further on. I'd obviously gained a lot more experience since then. And my family was there. And it was for the CPW Heavyweight Championship. At the time, the biggest title in there. They've now got the lineal. But at the time, it was, you know, the main title. And looking back now, you know, at the time, I thought, you know, I'm ready. But now, looking back, I wasn't. But I won. And, you know, at the biggest show of the year, I won, you know, the main title. And it was just incredible. And literally, the crowd exploded. They wanted it. You know, like the timing was perfect. I returned after, you know, about a year off. 6 months down the line, I've somehow, out of nowhere, won, you know, the biggest prize, the most prestigious title in CPW.
That's awesome.
Sold out crowd at the biggest show. And, you know, it was just another moment with Tom Lindsay that I've had. Another guy I'd like to mention, he's very young, but I believe if he showed up on WWE, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'd be like, well, yeah, you know, this was coming. Everyone's seen it. And that's a lad called Morris. I believe he's 17 or he's just turned 18. And since January, we've been in a sort of a feud. He's been coming for my title. and we had what was classed, I think it was called a top 15 match in CPW a couple of months back. And, you know, just listening to him and his ideas and watching him in a match, experiencing what he's doing. He's been wrestling at CPW since he was about 12, 13.
Wow.
So he's got just as much experience as me, if not more, because the guy's a machine. He literally trains. If they train 7 days a week, 24/7, he would be there. Literally, he would never sleep.
Jesus, that's awesome.
He is a machine. And, you know, we put on, I thought it was a good match. It was received well backstage. So they gave us a TLC match about a month ago. And he'd been in a TLC match before, I hadn't. And it was another one of those things, you know, where you tick off that dream, you know.
Right.
So I've become a wrestler. I've won the heavyweight championship. Now I'm in a TLC match. And like I say, being in the Attitude Era kid, TLC just, you know, had just come around at that time. So it's another one of those moments, you know. I was Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, you know. I was in my element, and so was Morris. And like I say, for a guy who's 18 or 17, I'm not quite sure, just the world is his oyster. He could become literally WWE champion if he wants to. And I think he does. Like I say, if he could be there 24/7, he would.
That's
so
awesome.
I've got to give him a big shout out. He's got a very bright future. So, Nerds of Wrestling, if you're watching, Morris, he's got a fan page. Follow him because he's got a bright future. And another guy I'd like to mention, Drake Winter. I actually won the title off him, which I hold now, the New Blood Heavyweight Championship. We had what was called a prison match in CPW. It's essentially a steel cage. I'd put it on record that I think Coventry Pro Wrestling has the best steel cage in the UK. And you know, if you get to, we've got an on-demand service. If anyone wants to see that, there's a couple of prison matches up. You know, it's like an old school WWE, WWF blue steel cage.
Oh, nice.
There's no giving it. It's rock solid steel. And it weighs a ton when you're trying to put it up around the ring.
Oh, yeah.
And me and him, you know, I think he's well over 300 pounds. I don't think he'll mind me telling you that.
Oof.
Not the most athletic, but, you know, unbelievable what he managed to do. He did a cannonball off the cage in that match onto me.
Oh.
Seen it come in. And, you know, just what he was willing to put on the line, you know, I've got to give him props. And he really helped put on another good match, you know, that I can look back on and really enjoy. And probably the last guy, I don't want to keep. I could literally mention anyone. And
dude, you can mention as much as you want, man. Go for it.
Anyone, obviously watching from Coventry Pro Wrestling, I'm sorry if I don't mention you. It's not that I don't mean to. It's just, you know, we could be here all night if we wanted to.
Right.
A guy named Jimmy Vice. He, when I became the CPW heavyweight champion, he didn't win the title off me, but we had a bit of a feud, and he got the title just after me, and I was coming for him, and he wanted to prove that he was better than me, because he come in, he wanted the Galaxy, the CPW Galaxy, to love him, and for whatever reason, they seen through him and realised that he wasn't what he was saying he was. So he didn't like it that I was loved by the CPW Galaxy.
Oh, bit of jealousy there.
Yeah, so it became quite a bit of feud, and we got to what's called the Xmas batch around Christmas time. I was the number one contender, and we went in and had a great match. Unfortunately, I think he knew I was getting the better of him, and he hit me with that title, which I loved, and got himself DQ'd and ran off into the sunset with it.
Oh, damn. God damn it.
You know, I've got to give him props for his athleticism, his ability. He's another guy that you've got to look out for. I think he's got a page, Jimmy Vice. Get on it, Nerds of Wrestling, because another guy who's got a bright future.
Dude, hell, you mentioned a lot of names there. I will definitely keep a lookout for them. Hopefully all the nerds who are listening and watching will keep a lookout for them. Niall, dude, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Anytime you want me on again, I'm here. I'll stay up whatever time you want me to.
Absolutely, man. Before we sign off, though, where can listeners find you? Drop those plugs.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, at Coventry Pro Wrestling on Facebook. I think it's, I can't remember, I think it's Cov Pro on Instagram. If you put in Coventry Pro Wrestling, you'll find it, or the hashtag Coventry Pro Wrestling. That's where you'll find a lot of Niall Fairchild. I personally don't have a fan page as of yet. Obviously, as you can see, my Instagram is NiallMullen90. So is my Twitter. And if anybody, who's watching that wants to get in touch, I'm open to all fans getting in touch. I love hearing from you all. I've got a personal Facebook, Niall Mullen. Search me, you'll find me.
Yeah, you'll find me.
If you look at the picture, you'll see me. I look the same pretty much as what's in what we put up tonight. So yeah, check them out. But also, if I can, I'd just like to do a couple of shout outs to a couple of guys.
Go for it, man.
So obviously, Mr. Richards, the owner of Coventry Pro Wrestling, just want to say thank you for all the opportunities you've given me. If it wasn't for him, then today wouldn't happen. I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
Yeah.
Built me up to this. So I thank him, for the rest of my life. Will Starr, the guy that trained me, one of the best in CPW, possibly one of the best in the UK. Another guy to check out, Will Starr Wrestler. He's got his own page. Check it out, because honestly, you'll love what he's doing. An old school British wrestler. Excellent. Got a guy named Tomby, who I had my first match with. He beat the living hell out of me, but I still love him. I appreciate what he's doing. He likes a bit of death match wrestling. He likes normal wrestling. He likes all wrestling, and he's someone that you want to keep an eye on. There's a guy called Cleo, who I've had a main event match with at the Xmas Bash this Christmas just gone. He's a current lineal heavyweight champion, the main man in CPW, so he's someone that you've got to keep an eye on. Like I say, tonight I face James Cross Wrestler, someone else to look out for because he's coming up. You've got Morris, who I've already mentioned, Jimmy Vice, Drake Winter. Who else can I mention so they don't be upset?
There's a lot of names. There's a lot of names, man.
Names, yeah, and I hope anyone that I've missed out, they don't take offence.
No, I'm sure they won't.
Had Kiara on before. You've got Shorty UK, who's our current women's champion, along with Kiara, who's our lineal women's champion. Kat Von Cage, a well-known UK name who comes to CPW. And you've got a young woman named Emma Cross, who's very similar to Morris, who's very young, I believe 16, 17. And she has got an incredible future ahead of her if she carries on down the path she's going.
Dude, there's nerds. Please go check out all those names. I beg of you. All those names he mentioned are worth checking out. And please go check out CPW all over social media platforms because they are awesome and they are such great people. I love them all to death. Niall, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today, bro. This has been so much fun. I will definitely have you on again sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like I say, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm glad I've got to, branch out to an American audience, a mainly American audience. Again, it's something, I've talked about earlier, ticking these things off my list. It's definitely one. So, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
Dude, hell yeah. No, really. The pleasure's all mine, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Of course, bro. This has been a podcast by Nerds of Wrestling. This is What's Up Wrestler. Peace out, nerds.